Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it's time for another weekly track roundup where I go over the best and worst tracks of the week. You know what it is. All the songs, of course, are linked down there in the description box, so you can check those out for yourselves. I want to give a shout out to the good people over at SeatGeek. They are our sponsor in this video. SeatGeek, if you didn't know, is a wonderful app that aggregates tickets to live events from all over the web to make ticket buying simple. They use a 0 to 100 score on each ticket to let you know if you're getting a good deal or a bad one. Green is good, red is bad. And their in-app view from Seat lets you see where you're going to sit. Enter code DROP to get $20 off your first order. Click the link in the description down below to get the app. And of course, also got to give a shout out to the good people over at Turntable Lab. They are releasing, the pre-order is out for the new colored Brockhampton vinyl for Iridescence. It's coming out. And if you hit up that link down below and pre-order it through them, we get kickback from it. So if you're already planning on buying the record, you love the record, it's one of your favorite records of the year, bam. Helps the show, helps the band, gets a record in your hands that you want. Easy as that. All right, let's get into the tracks I thought were the worst this week. That was relatively painless. Oh, come on. Come on, worst tracks. Come on. Oh, okay. Jesus Christ. This new Nicki Minaj single with Tyga. Yeah, it's absolutely gross. Mostly because Tyga kind of makes the song grosser than it needs to be. His lyrics and just his demeanor, his whole vibe on this track are just a little slimy. And I don't know what it is. Nicki Minaj, I just feel like she's in a weird state of limbo right now. Like she's not coming out with her best stuff. She is beefing with people she doesn't need to beef with. She is collaborating with people she doesn't need to collaborate with. And yet she's just doing it all. And it seems like she's just trying to, I don't know, just make her brand look as ridiculous as possible, as quick as she possibly can. So unfortunate. Nav, know me. Nav sounds as sleepy and as boring as ever. If you've ever heard Nav on a feature or have not heard Nav on a feature because his voice was mixed so low or sounded so boring that you didn't even notice it, you pretty much already know what you're getting out of this track. Have no idea how this track is so hot right now because his voice sounds as flat and as deadpan. His lyrics are as uninspired as they ever have been. Nav, easily the sleepiest rapper in the game. Moving on from there, Imagine Dragons, Machine. They have a new track out. You know, granted, this is one of their more rock and roll-ish songs that they have dropped in a while. You know, some like kind of real, somewhat edgy rock instrumentation actually turning up in this song, but it's as flavorless and as overblown as usual for Imagine Dragons. Don't expect anything surprising. Don't expect anything refreshing. It's Imagine Dragons. Oh yeah, going backwards. No, we want to go forwards. Next, this new collaborative track from Action Bronson featuring A$AP Rocky. Yeah, I'm not feeling this as a single, honestly. It's really washed out. It's kind of flavorless. The instrumental is a total mess, and I'm just not really seeing the appeal of this at all. Like, doesn't really have a strong chorus. A few bars from Bronson here or there that are kind of memorable, but I can't help but feel like these two guys, in a very short period of time, unfortunately, are just really past their prime. If we were talking about like 2011, 2012, 2013 Rocky or Action Bronson, I'd be like, hell yes. Hell yes. But right now in 2018, they're sounding surprisingly stale over, again, this very lifeless instrumental. And let's move on to the tracks I thought were kind of meh. Not blowing me away, but not terrible either. Certainly worth your time if you're into this sort of thing. First off, Tim Heidecker has a new political, satirical track out, Ballad of the Incel Man. Like usual with a lot of Tim's recent work, the lyrics and the topic and the story are, again, satirical. They're on point. It's smart. It's pretty funny. It's observational and very socially charged. But again, the instrumental presentation is just kind of whatever. It's a little plain. It's a little DIY. It's a little flavorless. But, you know, if you're really just there for the song, the story, the point, the political message of the track, you'll most likely enjoy it quite a bit. Moving on from there, there is a brand new track from Thundercat featuring Flying Lotus and Bad Bad Not Good out, which is set to be released on a forthcoming compilation of music for Brainfeeder Records, because they have a big anniversary coming up, and they're putting out all of these songs on this comp from all the flagship artists to just celebrate all the people they worked with over the years. And it's not a bad cut, certainly not one of the best tracks Thundercat has come up with, and not the boldest contributions I've ever heard from Flylo or Bad Bad Not Good. But it's how often do you see these three brains sort of coming together on one single track? You don't that often. So make sure to give it a shot. Moving on from there, Pedro the Lion is back. Pedro the Lion, of all bands. It's been a long time since we've heard from Pedro the Lion, and this new song over here, which is titled Yellow Bike, is not a bad track. Some pretty bold guitars on this cut. Lead vocals sound pretty fantastic too. I've never been a huge Pedro the Lion guy, but I will say I did think that this track, for a return song, because this is going to be a bit of a comeback album. Again, it's been a while since we've got a full-length record from Pedro the Lion. For a comeback song, it's pretty bold. You know, definitely putting their best foot forward on this one, I thought, even though it is just kind of standard indie rock affair in a lot of ways. Moving on from there, Flatbush Zombies' New World Order, a creepy, eerie little trap banger with some good flow chemistry between the respective members of the group. Good energy. It's kind of dark. Not the freshest production I've heard on a FBZ track, but it's still pretty good. And also shout out to Deerhunter, who have a brand new single and a brand new record on the way. Certainly not as trippy and as sound rich as some of my favorite records in their discography, but if you're looking for a straightforward indie ballad with some nice pillowy production on it, give this thing a shot, because it's a pretty sweet tune. I still think to this day Halcyon might stand as my favorite Deerhunter record. Do love the production on that thing quite a bit. If you have not heard that record, please do give a listen to that album. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, the sound of this new track over here isn't quite as adventurous or as surreal, but still, Bradford Cox is a songwriter, a pretty talented dude, and certainly comes through on this new track over here. And Carly Rae Jepsen, Party for One. Brand new song from her. Thought the production, the instrumental was a little run-of-the-mill on this one. Sounded very kind of dime a dozen mainstream pop. Not really anything special as far as the instrumental goes. But still, I thought the hook was really sticky. Party for one. You don't care about me. Making love to myself. Back on my beat. Yeah, it does have a great hook. It does have a really good hook. And once more, Carly Rae Jepsen does bring a song topic that deals essentially in just kind of being by yourself, unrequited love, party for one, just for one, because that significant other, they're not there. And also shout out to Ariana Grande, who has dropped a kind of interesting track, not really huge on it melodically or instrumentally, but this is a very personal song for her, because she's pretty much diving into just her relationship with Mac Miller and saying that she's thankful for her ex and just basically everything that relationship had meant to her and the impact that it left on her. So for a lot of fans and listeners who have been kind of wondering what exactly her whole side to all this is, given Mac Miller's recent passing, she puts it into song pretty well, and I don't know, I feel like she kind of closes a loose end or ties up a loose end, so to say, in a way on this new track, because I think she kind of answers some of those questions in the lyrics and the how emotional her delivery is on this track. So I guess if you're an Ariana Grande fan, just generally a pop fan, or if you've been a Mac Miller fan who's even in a cursory way, curious about sort of what her thoughts and sort of experiences have been, sort of being one of the few people out there who was connected to him in the way that she was. Give this track a shot. And let's move on to the tracks that really grabbed my attention this week, left a pretty heavy and positive impact on me. First off, this new non-album track from Young Fathers. It's titled Cocoa Sugar. So, yes, it's a non-album song, and yet it is titled after the album that they just dropped. So maybe it was going to be a title track, but they ended up cutting it. But this new song over here, it definitely would have been one of the more upbeat cuts on the new record. Love the way the vocals come together on this one. Love how grimy the instrumental is. Kind of reminds me of some of the more lo-fi and brash cuts earlier in their discography. Maybe they felt like that wouldn't have meshed with the rest of the album, but I still thought it was a pretty nice standout track, and certainly serves as a reminder that the trio did put out a pretty decent record this year and did get quite a bit of attention. They had that nice Apple Music advertisement that their music was placed in, and it seems like they've gotten quite a bit of positive press and some longtime listeners out of that cross promotion. So that's good news. That's great. You know, it's good to see these guys doing well, because they are one of the most unique music groups to come out of Scotland. Moving on from there, Sylvan Lacue, whose last album I wasn't all that huge on, because he just sounded super young, sounded like he was wearing his influences on his sleeve, didn't really have a strong sense of direction or anything. Has this new song and video out titled 333, dropped a little while ago, but still. His flows on this track are fantastic. Instrumental is great. Love some of the cheeky references to his contemporaries in the rap game and just music in general. Seems like he's really kind of starting to come into his own on this track over here. And again, if you give this track a listen, it is some very smart underground hip hop with some great flows. Pay attention to the flows. The flows are fancy. They're super nimble, and certainly putting me in a position where I'm like, whoa, I really want to pay attention to this dude now. I was a little interested before, given who it was clear he was listening to. But now it seems like he's really starting to take shape a little bit. Moving on from there, new Slipknot track. Surprisingly, I enjoyed quite a bit. All Out Life is the title of this new song over here. You can look at the Slipknot song and in a lot of ways say, you know, Anthony, this is kind of your standard Slipknot affair. And in some ways it is. I mean, the drums and the guitars and the riffs sound very much similar to that of many huge Slipknot singles, and maybe even a little bit more stripped back, as the usual percussive bells and whistles that you get on a Slipknot song are not as dense or here in full as they tend to be on other Slipknot tracks. And there is like a weird vocal spoken word passage that's like cringy as hell, and it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be motivational or something. It's basically the song's replacement for a bridge. And I think it's a moment on the track that really falls flat on its face. But that being said, the guitar work on this track is fantastic. The structure is great. It's so immediate. It's so catchy. It's so goddamn hard. And Corey Taylor's vocals on this track kick ass as well. So I don't know. For me, I like the track a lot. I think it all kind of balances out, and it's easily one of their best lead songs that I've heard in a while. I didn't really care for much of anything off the band's last album, to be completely honest, and hopefully this new record is a bit of a return to form as far as like going back to a grimier, harder sound, because this kind of felt like the band really kind of lighting a fire under their ass again, in a way. Moving on from there, Rosalía. She has a new track out, Mi Nombre, which I gave a full-length review of on the second channel, on the Fantano channel. I'm not going to get too deep into my love of this track right now, because her new record did just drop this week, and I am going to do a review for it. So I highly recommend the track. Don't miss it. It's a great little blend of modern pop music and flamenco, and her vocals on the cut are great, and you will hear me gush more about this album very soon. Moving on from there, Poppy and Grimes have a new collaborative track out, a song that they have been teasing for a while. For a little bit now, we've been hearing that Poppy and Grimes are going to be dropping new music, that they're working together, so on and so forth. And I guess this new song over here, titled Play Destroy, is the culmination of their efforts together, and it is a weird fusion of both of their respective and strange approaches to pop music, and then on top of that, all of these like overbearing, heavy nu metal riffs. It's insane that all of these sounds and ideas are kind of coming together onto this one song. And I guess maybe I'm mostly into it for the novelty of it and just how nutso it is to hear all of these sounds and influences on this one track, and also to simultaneously see Poppy and Grimes existing and coexisting in the same universe. But still, that being said, even though I am a little bit into it mostly for the novelty, I do find it very enjoyable. Moving on from there, LSD, Labrinth, Sia, and Diplo, who have been dropping song after song, single after single after single for a while now, have yet another. This new one is titled Mountains. And honestly, even though I think Labrinth, Sia, and Diplo have hit kind of a formula at this point, and this song features those typical whoa-whoas and the gargantuan drums and percussions that you typically expect out of a Diplo song, I actually think this track is one of the best pieces of millennial pop that I've heard in a while. Like, the tune is really friggin' good. I love Labrinth's vocals. I love the transition into the piano and Sia's voice. It's actually kind of beautiful. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You know, again, those usual millennial pop cliches do leak into it, but I think they're executed tastefully, or at least they sound pretty good. So, I don't know. I mean, look, here's the thing. I think more often than not, the singles that LSD drops are pretty good. Some of them have been a little horrendous, but this is a very unlikely trio here, and I think it's pretty awesome that they're just like keeping at it. LCD Soundsystem have a new record on the way, the Electric Lady Sessions, which I'm pretty excited about because I do like some of the studio session work and, you know, kind of the live session feel and vibe that comes through on some of their records that go down that path. I feel like if their last full-length record was missing anything, it was kind of that raw, post-punky vibe that some of their best albums have. And this new one is going to be coming out soon, and the single that has been released from it is actually a cover of the group Heaven 17, and the song is We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Thing. And their rendition of it is actually pretty fun. Again, pretty raw. Love the just love the in the moment performance and everything. Can't really complain. And obviously the the song topic is pretty timely as well. You know, cover, but still the song they chose to cover obviously has its reasoning behind it. And Envy, Japanese post-rock and kind of screamo outfit. Envy, one of the best to ever do it in this particular genre, are back with a new single, Alnair, in August. It's pretty powerful, wonderful, just like throat-shredding lead vocals and some grand, heavy crescendos, awesome structures and progressions throughout these tracks, too. They're pretty epic, they're pretty emotional, they're pretty powerful. If you are an emo or a screamo fan and you have not been listening to Envy, Jesus Christ, not only do you have a lot to catch up on, but you know, this new sort of single that the band has just dropped, I actually think is maybe not a bad place to start. And then once you do that, go back and listen to their first several records because they're great. So shout out to Envy. And also shout out to Clarence Clarity, who has dropped 2 like post-think piece non-album tracks just a little while ago this week. He has seen fit to release these songs. They are titled Anthropic Principles and Telenovela. I'm not as crazy about the latter as I am the former, but both of them just sound like really weird, cutting-edge, freakazoid pop with some zany production, which could have easily fit onto his last record, No Now. And also shout out to Andrew Bird, Bloodless, new record on the way, and one of my favorite singles that he has dropped in a while. It's actually a pretty powerful and tasteful ballad, and it's nice to hear Andrew Bird coming back and dropping a song with some real conviction behind it, because for a while I feel like he's kind of been lost in the woods with a lot of the very flowery instrumentation that he surrounds his tracks with. And while it is very pretty to the ear, the songs themselves just sound a little dime a dozen and just kind of meh. To me, as far as the songwriting, perspective goes, this new track over here was one of his best in a while. So screw me, man. Excited to see another Andrew Bird record, apparently. So I'm going to leave it at that. Nice Baroque indie pop ballad with a bit of a social edge to it. Don't miss it. And that is it. That is it for our weekly track roundup, everybody. Make sure, again, to hit up that Turntable Ad link if you want to grab that Iridescence pre-order. And also, again, shout out to SeatGeek if you want to conveniently grab some tickets to some shows that you want to see from around the web. All right, again, all the songs that talked about in this video, linked down there below in the description box. Check them out there. And I will see you guys in the next video. Love you forever.